That seems to be the mantra for Luke Walton.
Yeah, a lot of talk at this time of year by teams and players and coaches, but it's the action that matters, and he's stressing defense, and we're seeing defense.
We showed the different rosters of the Golden State squad that Luke Walton had last year to this Laker team. Can Luke Walton just take the same philosophies and principles on both sides of the ball and apply them here? Is it that simple?
It is that simple. The execution is what matters, right? Players and personnel, talent levels and skill sets are all different throughout our league. But growth, when you have youth, if you train them correctly, as we see from the San Antonio Spurs history, they can take young players and really mold them into superstars. So the talent is here. Now it's just running through the paces, the repetition, the execution. If we think about the triangle offense, we've had this conversation over the years with it's not as easy to just plug in the triangle offense and have players execute it. What the Golden Warriors do up north, I'm sure is a little more complicated than just rolling the ball out and letting the superstars get it done.
Well, among Luke Walton's coaching staff is Kobe. Not breaking news.
Kobe's here?
Well, a different Kobe.
Oh, hey, congratulations, the Defender head coach, Kobe Carl, George Carl, UNC Tar Heel guy, his son. But I just want you to know, bro, the Black Mamba life matters, bro. He matters. They're going to miss him, man. Say what you want to say. There's a calm, there's a respect that comes from the opponent when a Kobe Bryant was on the floor. I'm excited to see, Luke Walton started as a Defender coach as well. So Kobe Carl, who knows? Maybe he's starting his career in the Laker organization, and someday he'll be manning the sidelines as well.
It's one of many familiar names on this coaching staff that Luke Walton brought over. Brian Shaw left our studios at Turner and is now the associate head coach, former head coach of the Nuggets. And
a gaucho at that. Gaucho at that. He went to school here. I mean, the halls are lined with memories of
I haven't seen one,
Brian
actually.
Shaw. You just didn't go down the right hall.
Oh.
I didn't say the gym hall or the scene what Timothy can bring to the Lakers in the paint.
Mark Madsen is also on this coaching staff.
Yes.
Judd Bushler with his days with the Bulls, so knowing the type of system that Phil Jackson taught Luke Walton.
There's a little Arizona tie there, too.
A lot of Arizona ties here.
Yeah, so Luke staying true to not only his pro roots, but his college days, as did Steve Kerr.
How much of an impact do these assistant coaches have here during training camp as Luke Walton tries to pretty much revamp everything that's done?
Well, their job is obviously, from a player development standpoint, not only to dive deeply into the growth of these players, these young players, but also to be an added voice at times when players tune out the head coach. Their support of Luke behind the scenes as Brian came over and what he had forgotten about his days as a coach, and he'd really only been out the game for a year, was how locked down in the bunker you get as an assistant coach, really preparing day in and day out for practices and game film and watching and scouting. And so there's so much work at play here for these assistant coaches, especially in supporting a new head coach, the youngest in the league.
Coming to you from the University of California, Santa Barbara, the Gauchos, as we mentioned, the greatest of them all. In his short tenure here, Brian Shaw.
How you doing, Jamal? Good to see
Mitch
you.
Kupchak joined us a little earlier on. Now we're going to bring in here, with the magic of live television, friend of the program, Jamal Wilkes, joins us very often here. And Jamal, obviously, one of the great Lakers, 3 titles.
Once the exhibition and the game start, there's no time. So they have to realize the importance of this week and being here and giving all they have to Coach Luke Walton and what he's trying to implement.
Understand your son has been part of shaping this organization, working on Mitch Kupchak's staff. What has that been like for you to have your son now in the Laker organization?
It's a trip, quite honestly. But I'm happy for him. That's what he wanted to do, and they say he's doing a good job. But it's also a little special too, having that family tie in with the organization.
You and I had an interesting chat earlier in the summer after the Kevin Durant news came out, and we talked about your move from the Warriors to the Lakers and the timing of all of that, and when you had the chance to join the Lakers, as you reflect back at now all the attention that's been put on the NBA this offseason with all these high-profile, high-priced moves, what do you reflect back on to your days of going down the coast?
Well, when I reflect, it was more of a mom-and-pop league then, and frankly, that's why I left Oakland, was that the owner just didn't have the wherewithal to keep me or a slew of other players. But I think now, since the game has grown so much, and interestingly enough, with social media, you don't have to be in LA or Chicago or New York. You can be anywhere in the country. So
that's why you should get League Pass, right, Jamal? Yeah. Sell the company.
Yeah, I just got a notification. My charge went through, so I'm wired up.
I think you could reimburse that.
I hope so. You were a slim shooting forward. Give me your thoughts on Brandon Ingram.
I haven't seen him play much in college or high school, for that matter, but. I think it can be an advantage, quite frankly. I think, as you know, everyone in this league is really, really, really good at something. And, I think sometimes, and I'm not saying this is the case with Brandon, but you can want him to do maybe what he doesn't do. So I think as a slasher on offense and defensively getting through the screens, he's long, he's got length. I think back to myself. I think to George Gervin, Michael Cooper. I mean, Cooper weighed less than I did. Wow. And he was very effective for us.
Well, you mentioned Coop. Coop defensively well touted over the course of his career. This is some of the early praise from Luke in return to Brandon's game out here in a few days has been defensive.
Yeah, I've read and heard.
Ball.
Yeah, and I think that's a positive that a young player like that is not only knows how, but is willing to play defense.
Well, Jamal, it's been great to catch up with you. You always give us a lot of time throughout the season, so I'm sure it won't be long before we chat again.
Well, thank you so much, guys.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, buddy.
Jamal Wilkes joining us here at the Great Laker as the times are a-changing here. We're in Santa Barbara, and we've got plenty more to do from Laker Day 4 of training camp. Kobe wasn't the only guy who retired last year. Gary Vitti did as well.
Yeah.
But it didn't take him long to get back in the gym. We'll hear from the legendary trainer.
I'm really into this
era. Taking threes don't necessarily mean you make threes. And in the case of Byron Scott, maybe he knew something because that shooting percentage there tells you maybe they should not have been shooting threes. But as we know, that's not the way the Warriors played. That's not the way the game is being played more and more by more teams. You have to be able to actually compete from behind the arc in some way. So I don't know where they find players that are going to actually shoot at a high clip, but maybe the offseason they worked on that, and we're going to see some of that in preseason.
Well, let's mention one of the more intriguing storylines here in camp, a guy fighting for a position, a guy who we wondered if he would make it to training camp, but indeed Nick Young is here. He also a very difficult 2015-2016 season with the Lakers. Nick Young is known as a three-point shooter for his career, about 37%. But last year, 32% and averaged a career-low 7 points a game. Nick's got this year and next year left in his contract.
One there.
Yeah.
Well, look, you can very quickly in this league go from a three-point maker to a three-point taker, depending on that line, that Mason-Dixon line of percentage. And when I played in the league, 33% was considered acceptable back in the day, but in this era, you have guys shooting 40s, mid-40s. I mean, they really have become masters from behind the arc, and so a low 30 is no longer acceptable.
Let's talk about where Nick Young fits in here, and he has tried to clear the air, tried to move beyond the incident with D'Angelo Russell, filming him on his camera, and ultimately a tape getting out to TMZ.
And this goes back to the era that these players play in, right? Mitch alluded to this. The pressure of just having a professional career and being a professional and delivering on your responsibilities is there, but now they live in an era where it's scrutinized at every turn with social media. So, look, what went down last season, or in every team, there were situations between players where things went down. Yeah. This was obviously well documented between two of these players, but it's not new. It's not new in the game. It's not new that players make missteps, make mistakes, and and it's not going to change. It's going to continue to move forward in this game. So I don't know how, to tell you the truth, I admire how any of them handle playing in this era. I don't know if I would have been able to survive.
Well, Nick Young saying that we have to put this behind us and go out there and do our job. And the question really, Rick, as we focus on basketball, is what Nick's role will be, because his position is very crowded. And, you know, as I mentioned, he's got this year and next year left on his contract. The Lakers have gone past the date in which they could utilize the stretch provision, which would give them some salary cap relief over the years.
Right.
So
he's
now,
at $11 million guaranteed over the next 2 years. So.
Right. Now you're looking at a situation of what you do with them, because you've obviously got Russell and Clarkson who are going to start in the backcourt, and you've got Lou Williams, and you wonder where he fits in here. And a guy, when Luke Walton's preaching defense,
right.
Nick certainly hasn't been known as a defensive-minded player.
Well, his defense has been his offense. When he's going and he's streaky hot, you know, you got to pay attention to him, and therefore, you know, you're chasing the scoring. But look, if I'm Nick Young, even though I'm a Laker, I quite frankly have to look at this roster and say, hey, we won 17 games last year. Every position is crowded, because every position should be open. Yes, there's people making a lot of money in some of those positions, and maybe are more favorable in getting those minutes, but winning, you put winning people on the floor.
You know, I want the farewell gift that we gave Gary Vitti back, because the legendary Laker trainer said he retired. It was only a semi-retirement. And Gary now joins us here, is back with the Lakers in a different capacity than you have been in different years, but you couldn't stay away, huh? Does that mean Kobe's coming back next too?
Absolutely not.
You just slept walk here, didn't you? Just by habit. You just came. Good to see you, man.
I've been doing pretty well. I was really nervous coming up here, not knowing. I mean, it's sort of an undefined thing, but I just sort of slid right into this semi-retirement thing, and it's great being on the sideline but not being on the firing line.
How different was last year for you and the organization? Was it weird?
Of course. Yeah, I mean, it was Kobe's swan song. Everything was directed that way. And as a result, it was probably most difficult on our young players because the way Kobe went out isn't really the way you want to bring young guys in. So it was sort of opposing forces, and we were trying to do everything we could to make it work.
What did work?
What did work?
Yeah.
Kobe
don't look at the 17.
Okay. Kobe and I worked.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that was really good. I never saw Kobe in the 20 years that I worked with him so happy. And